Okay, we're moving right along. Well, now I have a very special guest to introduce you to. We are probably sure of only good things in life. And those two good things that we can be sure about is that the sun is going to come out tomorrow morning and that Maria Benjumea is going to be smiling. Maria is not only responsible for this amazing dream for entrepreneurs, but we didn't know this back in 2012, but this has become also one of the biggest events for innovation for companies. It is events like this that in particular strengthen the innovation ecosystem for companies in Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Maria Benjumea.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here with all of you, and in this morning, presenting to you what is going to be the thermometer for the open innovation. I think that during these days, all of us are convinced about the great ecosystem we have. And what we are working with all the corporations and the startups and the investors is how we are going to consolidate more and still this ecosystem, and how we are going to work all together to add the value that this ecosystem really has for our corporations. You know, this is the 4th edition of South Summit. We are really very happy. But what we wanted when we finished last year was to work during the whole year, because this is not one thing of one platform, of one event. This is something that really is interesting for all of us, for all of our organizations, because we need the innovation proceeding from the startups. And that's why we decided and we created South Summit Dinn. You know the name? The name really is Disruptors, Innovators, Network. Because really, all of us that really we are the ecosystem, in one or different ways, we are disruptor. And above all of us, we have to be convinced that we can be disruptor innovators. And that's why we call this network Disruptor Innovators Network. And here we are working with all our partners, with our great partners, with Endesa, with Sabadell, with Google, with Ferrovial, with Amadeus. We will tell you afterwards. And what we want is really to work with them hand by hand, all together, because who is our competitor now? A really competitor? Is the competitors that we already know? Is, for example, for the financial industry, is BBVA for Sabadell or Santander? Or is that competitor that we don't see? We don't know where it is. For example, nowadays, who are competing with Sabadell or BBVA, like the president of BBVA the other day told us? Is Google? Is Facebook? Is Amazon? Or is the other corporations, the other banks? So what we are working in South Summit Dinn is all together, because the best way always to find the results, to find the light, to know how we can work faster is all together. So we've been working for more than 6 months, the different partners, all together to find which is the best way to go faster, to learn one from each other, to put all of them together. And this, what we've been working, is not only for them, because you know, we live the era of the collaboration, and we see that collaboration everywhere. We see how corporations that before they had all the innovation just for themselves, because they didn't want to tell anything, and now we share that innovation. We share the way how we are looking for the best way to work with the ones that are really, and we, not we, all of you have demonstrated it during these 3 days, the ones who really are developing constantly the innovation are the entrepreneurs. But you are entrepreneurs. It doesn't care that you have a startup or that you are working for a corporation. You are an entrepreneur, and you are the one who are really developing this innovation. So it's been absolutely a great experience. We've started like with a pitching, like the startups do. Where are each of us, each of the different corporations, of our different partners, how were they working with the startups? It was really very interesting. And you know what? Besides all our partners, our great partners, the great teams that belongs to all those companies, many companies, extraordinary ones, that you will see, you'll see them here in South Summit, but you will see them in our thermometer. But I found a person that really was extraordinary to work with us. If we want to foster the entrepreneurial ecosystem, it's very important that you really know how works startups, how think a startup, what need startups, but beside that, how think corporations, which are the problems that the corporations have to connect, to really be able to work with the startups, being one of them. So that person was Pedro Jareño. Pedro Jareño is a great entrepreneur. He's one of the founders of Minube. And besides, now he's the responsible for startups in Microsoft España. So, excuse me, now he's corporate. I'm sorry. So he's the one who really could help us to put together the different words and to help us to work, finding those ways to develop and to go faster with the goal of adding this value to the organizations and adding these values for the startups. And you know what? We were talking before about this is the era of the collaboration, and it's right. And this is the era for the collaboration, and this is the era for something so extraordinary like is the win-win. Because now it's not the big one, the great one, and he's the boss. And now the other ones, the startups, are the small ones, and they have to beg and how they can work with the corporations. Haven't you seen the corporations here? They are great. They are really enthusiastic to see the talent, the innovation that all these startups you've been here, you can suppose for them. So this is the great era of the win-win, the collaboration and the win-win. But what we are introducing to you today, the South Summit Dinn, the thermometer for the open innovation and how we can close the frontier between startups and great corporations, and how we can make a really extraordinary ecosystem that we've seen it today here. As I told you before, today what we are introducing is just the beginning. We already know that we can work. No, we can work, no. we work extraordinarily well between the different players. We work extraordinarily well with the corporations of the same industries, and we are sharing our knowledge, our problems, how we can do everything, and each of us has better practice in some way and other problems in the other. Already, we know we can do it, and we are doing it very well. Today, after I'm already finishing, and when I finish, Pedro will come here before to introduce the panel. Is going to follow these words of introduction. But the extraordinary thing is that from now on, we are going to have our thermometer, to start with different challenges of our corporations, of our entrepreneurial ecosystem, and we are going to measure year or month by month and year by year, and working in the different challenges we have. The first one we've been working at has been, how am I, corporation, going closer to the startups? And you know, we have identified 4 Bs to connect the startups with the corporations. The first ones is programs to foster and to improve the entrepreneurial ecosystems. The second one is accelerating or incubating startups. It's one of the ways that the corporation thinks is interesting for them to start working. The third one is just business, but business, very interesting business for everyone, is BS, collaboration ways, and is client y proveedor. Sorry, I don't know the word. And the fourth one is the different ways of investing. The good news is you don't have one that is only in one of the different alternatives or the others. Some of them have the four of them, and others have 2, 1, 3, but all of them at the end. And you see how they have developed along these years that they've been working and innovation, open innovation, how they have improved and how all of them are coming to the same conclusion. Our goal, our interest is just that, and is find the innovation I need for my company. And I will do whatever I can, and they have demonstrated it here in these days at South Summit. What do I have to do to find that innovation? Because the startups are full of talent and full of innovation that we need for our company. So I want from here to thank all our partners, all of them, not only to support what we are doing, but above all, and that's the great thing, for working together to consolidate the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a beautiful night. We're looking for something dumb to do. Hey baby, I think I wanna marry you. Is the look in your eyes, or is this the distance in you? Who cares, baby? I think I wanna marry you. know this little shopping on the boulevard. We can go on. No one we know. Oh, come on, girl. Piece of trash, got a pocket full of cash. We can blow. Shut your patrol. And it's on, girl. Don't say no, 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 no. Just say yeah. And we go, 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 go. If you're ready, I am ready. 'Cause it's a beautiful night. We're looking for something to. Hey, baby, I think I wanna marry you. Is that look in your eyes, or is it the dancing you? Who cares, baby? I think I wanna marry you. I go get a reel in the choir bell, sing like you. So what you wanna do? Let us run, girl. You will wake up and you wanna break up, that's who. No, I won't blame you. It was fun, girl. Don't say no, 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 no. Just say yeah. And we go, 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 go. If you're ready, I am ready. 'Cause it's a beautiful night. We're looking for something to. Hey, baby, think I wanna marry you. It's not look in your eyes, or it is the dancing you. Who cares, baby? I think I wanna marry you. Just say I do. Tell me right now, baby. Tell me right now, baby. Baby, I say I do. Tell me right now, baby. Tell me right now, baby. It's a beautiful night. We're looking for something to. Hey, baby, I think I wanna marry you.
All right, well, we continue with the exciting lineup for this morning. And now corporations are going to talk openly about innovation. And we've got an amazing lineup, including Catherine Grass from Amadeus, Fernando Sandoval from Endesa, Sergio Platón from Iberdrola, Marisa Hernandez from Open Talent, Maria Benjumea again, and Federico Flores from Ferrovial, Sofia Benjumea from Google Campus, and Pedro Jareño from Microsoft is going to moderate this exciting panel. As we've heard from Maria earlier, the corporations have the most to gain from events like this, and now they're going to speak openly to us about what it takes to innovate today as a big company. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Pedro Jareño and his panel.
Ponte tú ahí, tú ahí.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. First of all, I would like to thank you all, but mainly to Maria, because she's the one that really make it happen, and she deserves a big applause, please, for all of us, in our name. Yeah. My name is Pedro Jareño. I am a startups lead in Microsoft Spain, and I have the amazing pleasure to moderate this roundtable with these absolutely fascinating professional people. because we live something that it's hard to explain, and for us it's a great honor to expose what we achieved. Maria told you just minutes ago what happened when we all united, were able to talk about innovation, to talk about startups, to talk about corporates, and the result of all of that is this white paper.
Yes.
Maria already told you. But the most thing about what happened there is everything about people. It's everything about emotions. It's everything about passion. And I think that's the key of this whole ecosystem. So I am really proud of being part of this amazing crowd. I'm going to let them to introduce themselves. I'm pretty sure that someone else is coming on the
He's coming.
stage, so we will be like improvising, and that's amazing because when you are in the corporate world, it's not easy to do that. But with these people, you can do it. So thank you very much for your patience and your ability to do this to happen. So please join us to talk about innovation, about startups, about corporates, and I want to let them introduce themselves. So please, Marisol begins and go this way.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, and nice to see you, everyone. My name is Marisol Menendez. I'm head of Open Innovation at BBVA. And just to sum it up, we're in charge of connecting the outside world, mainly startups and developers, with our BBVA initiatives, looking to collaborate together and, as we say, bring amazing to the hands of our customers, both the startups and us.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Sergio Platon. I work at Iberdrola at the innovation department, but particularly on the corporate venture capital program that we have, which is called Iberdrola Venture Special, which is basically working with the startups and investing with them to gain access to new products and services.
Thank you. I'm Catherine Grass, Head of Innovation at Amadeus. Amadeus is a travel company, and we view innovation very much about how to collaborate with the external world in the form of various programs, whether that be an investment fund, open innovation, and opening up our APIs, partnership program, collaborating with those startups, and then bringing those ideas back inside the company so we can bring value to our customers.
Hello, I'm Fernando Sandoval. I work with Endesa. I've been developing the relationship with the startups for about 5 years already, and now I'm in charge of the new innovation hub we are setting up in Madrid to continue developing the relationship with the startups.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sofia Benjumea, and I lead Campus Madrid, which is an initiative from Google for Entrepreneurs to accelerate the ecosystem through a space, through connections, education, and trying to bring the best of the talent from Google to support startups in their growth.
Well, you know, everyone, Maria, she was already here. So what happened that day in that event that Maria mentioned before was that we all realized when we were talking about what we do with startups and with innovation, that there's a gap between corporates and startups. And we all believe that we need to reduce that gap. And we are all responsible for that. And we can do things to try to improve, because startups need corporates and corporates need startups. So what we did is to talk about that and to show to every one of us what each one of us do in that ecosystem. So first question, it's about exactly how is the way you engage with startups in each one of your corporates. If you want to say the same order, Marisol, please.
Okay. Well, let's just say that we know that it's not a discussion about who will survive. The future is of working together. So we're creating all the right mechanisms for startups and the corporations collaborate. Within BBVA, we have several ways of collaboration. We do have our venture fund, which is Propel. We do interesting operations of acquisition and M&A. The latest examples are Holdy, Atom, OpenPay in Mexico, and Madiba in Spain. And those are good ways to collaborate, bring in talent, and strengthen our own value proposition to the world. But the action that we are leading within open innovation is engage a wide network of startups to connect with us. So in summary, what we do is we have a startup competition, BBVA Open Talent. I'm sure that you all know it by heart. So BBVA Open Talent is already in its 9th year. Next year we will celebrate the 10th year. And it's the longest running fintech competition in the world. Here, for example, this year we received 798 fintech startups, and only about 10 were repeating from previous years. So it means that we have 798 new startups from all around the world. 77 countries were participating here. We get to know them, analyze them, evaluate them with our own experts and experts from the outside, and here we have strong collaborators. No? And then internally what we are doing is understanding the needs and strategy of BBVA. This is not an easy task, and this is because we are talking honestly about innovation. No? What we do is understand the strategy, understand the needs, and this is a complicated task in a 140,000 employees company. We are in more than 30 countries. But we do that, and we are working in understanding internal needs and which are the points where it's valuable to create the connection. And we push for the connection, and we look forward working together in business relationships, doing partnerships, and a regular vendor-customer relationship. So startups need customers. BBVA is a good customer and a good partner to help you to develop and bring your solution to the hands of the customers. That's the summary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sergio, please.
Okay, so well, at Iberdrola we've been working with startups for the last 10 years, and something that I like to say, well, working with a startup is very cool, but I think corporates before working with a startup need to know before why they want to work with startups, what do they expect from them, and what for. And same happens for the startups. Before approaching a corporate, they need to know why they want to work with a corporate, if they expect market access, customers to test their product. Sometimes, well, corporates, we see ourselves as champions of the sector, but sometimes we lack the ability and flexibility that the startups have. And that's why maybe startups can work with us to fill those gaps. At Iberdrola, we've built an entrepreneurial and startup ecosystem with, well, covers a broad range of activities that comes from the most early stage where there's the idea concept until the idea is mature and they have the product ready to launch. So we are doing this through 3 major initiatives. The first one, we provide entrepreneurial supports to key universities in order to attract talent and fresh ideas to the company. Second one, we are partnering with incubators and accelerators here in Europe and also in the US. But this way is not to invest in the startups, but also to early identify technology trends before they become mainstream. And last but not least, we have our corporate venturing fund, which is 70 million euro, and with the goal to gain access to new products and services that could help Iberdrola to create new business opportunities. So through this program, we've even analyzed more than 1,500 companies, and we'll also wanted to thank South Summit because they help us also to meet new startups that with whom we are exploring collaboration opportunities. Thank you.
Catherine, please.
Very good. Yeah, similar to the other panelists, I think at Amadeus, when we talked about how to bring more innovation to the company, and there's no right formula. I think that's what we've discovered over the years, and you have to really be respectful of the culture and emanate that culture of your organization through then the programs that you want to put in place. And for us, it started just over 3 years ago when we wanted to be more at the forefront and proactive of what sort of travel trends we saw. And we're starting to think about how we could then collaborate with the external world in the best way to identify those trends, but not only identify those trends, but do something about them. And we felt at that time that a venture fund would be the first good program to launch. And with the carrot of financing, which was needed in the startup space, we were able to have thousands of conversations with startups and really understand what was happening in the external world. And then ultimately investing in many of those and collaborating with those startups. And then from there, it was really important for us to listen through that first program to figure out where we needed to go next, both for the strategy of the company, but also for the external environment. And so by engaging with thousands of startups and having those conversations, the next thing that we were asked after money was connection to our data. And that launched our second initiative, which was how to open up our APIs and create a self-service open innovation API program, Amadeus for developers. So that was the second program. And after that, in still listening and figuring out what aligned best with the strategy of the company, we realized beyond the data, beyond the money, there were a lot of other emerging companies that didn't really fit the mold of a venture fund because they were Series B and really scaling up and growing, but they weren't yet mature enough to directly engage with our business units at the organization, and they still needed to be managed like a startup, and they still had very different and innovative ideas, but and so they were kind of in these two worlds. So then we created an innovation partnership program again, and I think at the end of the day, it's all about, especially from a corporate perspective, not only what you see and do externally, but how you make that connection back to the organization. I think it's probably an ongoing positive tension and challenge that all corporations face, and being able to then open up your diverse customer base, as you mentioned as well, to engage with those startups.
Thank you very much. Rolando?
Thank you. In Endesa, as you know, Endesa belongs to Group Enel, multinational power utility, and in Group Enel, we know and we understand that innovation is at the forefront of our strategy. We have the purpose to become one of the most relevant players in the new renewable world of energy in the coming years. And in order to do so, we are clear that we need open innovation to be able to do so. It is not that we are going to provide innovation by ourselves. We have an open innovation model that we've been developing for the past 10 years. And in this model, we have been working with suppliers, with customers, we've been working with universities, tech centers, and from 5 years ago with startups. And we found that it's a marvelous world working with the startups mainly because of three things. Because they are able to work with the state-of-the-art technology, and not only technology, but also business models. They are able to have fast time to market, which is wonderful for us. We are an elephant. We are a bureaucratic company, so it's very difficult for us to move in a fast way. And third, they are able to take risks probably we're not able to take. So working with startups being a great way to bring new technologies, new business models, new innovation into the company. How do we do it? We have the purpose to become the best possible partner, industrial partner for the startups. We want to be able to give them our know-how, to provide our test facilities and our infrastructure so they can further develop their solutions, and of course, most important, enable to scale up, have the possibility to have access to 60 million customers we have in more than 30 countries. And the model of collaboration we have is a tailor-made model. There are many realities in the group, many business lines, many countries, and each one has a different reality. So we can go from the standard customer-supplier relationship. You have a service, you have a product that I can sell or I can use, going all the way through different models until a model we like a lot, that is, you have the capability to help us solve an innovation challenge we have. Let's go and set up a collaboration agreement, an innovation project, and we develop the solution together. We do not enter into equity in the startups. We could provide capital to the development of the project, and at the end we can ask for exclusivity or for royalty or something like that. But at the end, what we want is to have a win-win relationship with the startup.
Fernando. Sophia, please.
So I think Google is one of the youngest, and it was a startup not that long ago. And at Google, we're still led by our founders, and innovation and entrepreneurship is still in our DNA. There's several venture funds. There's a lot of acquisitions. Some of our major and more successful products that have come out of acquisitions. But what we do at Google for Entrepreneurs is mostly how can we actually accelerate the ecosystem? How can we actually support the startups by creating an ecosystem? And through what we do at Google for Entrepreneurs is actually being a platform, brand agnostic, so that all of us actually can leverage from that. We have a physical space that's open to anyone that want to come and start. It's like kind of democratizing that first step to entrepreneurship. And then we have several programs of education. One part is focused on diversity. We haven't talked about that and how important it is for this to be something real, like having this equal representation of women and men, for example. We work on education for everyone through workshops and talks. And most importantly, we devote most of our time to help startups grow by having access to the best of Google, through having access to the talent, having access to some of our methodologies, and having access to somehow of a platform of knowledge sharing among all the players of the ecosystem. We work ourselves with other corporations by inviting them to come to our space, to come to our community, because we realized from day one, we've been open to 2 years, that the major problems that startups had was revenue users. They need to sell. There's a lot of financing, there's a lot of money, we've been seeing it. I don't know how many funds came to South Summit this week. There's a lot of money there, but what they need is clients. What they need is to test that there's a market fit, that there's a product fit. So what we try to do is just close the gap between the corporates and saying, just come, sit down, business meetings, and see if there's like potential for collaboration.
Thank you very much. I guess even that Maria is not expecting this question here. Oh, welcome, Jordi from Correos is going to join us. So I will introduce you also later, Jordi, but now I'm keeping the question to Maria, because you are a pioneer in this relationship. We are talking here about how to connect startups and corporates, and that's why we are all here. You started up like 5 years ago, this amazing thing. Well, Sofia is also, of course, part of that. You created Spain Startup, and then you created South Summit. So what do you thought about when you really created this? Why did you decided to create this connection, this hub between corporates and startups?
Well, I think that if you see this photo, I think everything is said. First, one of our challenges is always how do we convince to the women that really is worthy to be there. And look, this panel, I'm really happy to see it. And beside that, what are you seeing? When you listen to all of them, what we are seeing is collaboration. And really is the only way to get where we want to go. And that's why we thought, if we are all convinced, I don't want to speak because I've said that before, but we want it all together to work and to find the path as quicker as possible. And really, the experience we've been living during these 6 months has been absolutely extraordinary.
Thank you very much. So, Jordi Escola is leading the innovation in Correos, and he also has been part of this amazing work we did together. So please, Jordi, can you tell us what do you do exactly in Correos? And the point here, I think, is that Correos is a public company, so it's quite different from what we do. So please tell us your story.
Okay. Well, because we are doing innovation and innovation is improvisation, I don't want to answer your question. No, and also, I've been in the previous scene in the other side, where the kids were talking about big projects. So I think we don't need to talk about corporations or startups. I think it's better to talk about people. No, and as you said before, the gap between corporations and startups, I think we will never fix this gap. I think people is who is doing this connection, and is people connected. Corporates just think in vendors, in customers and competitors, but when you are talking about the startups, it's persons, it's people enthusiastic. You empathize. I'm not good English speaker. Empathize. Well, I don't know. So you have to connect people, the owner, the entrepreneur, I mean, with people from the corporation, and at the end, it's just people connected to people. The rest is, I think, it's not important, and those things works because there are entrepreneurs inside the corporations. There are good teams inside corporations that makes that possible, and it's just people connection. No? What we are doing is more or less the same than the rest of the companies, but we are a startup. We are a very big company, but small startup doing.
And a public one.
Company.
That's very important.
And also, I mean, I remember 5 years ago when you and Sofia come to tell me Spain startup when you were a very small startup. So look at what we have become. No, I think it's been incredible. But at the end, it's people. It's connecting people, and it's people who makes possible what's happening here. So and that's it.
No, you are absolutely right. We all believe that, and that's why we are all here. But you did a great thing with Correos Labs, and I didn't want to tell the people that he did an amazing job to connect people from the corporate side to the startups. So why don't we tell a small example about what we achieved in this year? For instance, Marisol, can you tell us, this example from a startup or mixture you create, something that you are proud of what happened when you are working in this ecosystem?
Okay, it's funny because when you said think about an example, many of them came to mind, but I will go with the one who moves my heart, because if we're talking about people, what creates the enthusiasm that we feel when we are doing our work? I think it was 2 weeks ago, we were in Chicago with our final of the vertical about global trends. So we're hunting for global trends around fintech. And what we do is we select from all those 798 startups, we do an iterative process to get to top 10 for each vertical. We meet in Chicago, in this case, with those 10 startups, and we bring BBVA teams and top management teams and decision makers. For example, in Chicago, we had Honor, who is the CEO of BBVA Compass in the US. And we had a strong team of business units. While we were deliberating, while the jury was deliberating, part of the team was getting the NDAs to be signed between one of the startups finalists to begin discussing a possible collaboration. The road to get there, and to say in that time, hey, we're interested, here's a business opportunity. It means that the connection was right, so there's so much work behind it, but the symptom or the moment to say, hey, there's a connection, we call them collisions, because we envision this like a nuclear explosion. We will transform the industry from here. And you can live it and you can breathe it. And of course, all the way that brought us there is the processes, the procedures, the strategy alignment, and bringing all the bank and all the ecosystem together. So that's my example.
Oh, that's amazing. What about you? Have you a big example about nearly happened investment in a startup?
Yeah, well, I think through our investments, what we're trying to achieve here is to connect our business units, because, well, our innovation model is more decentralized, so the innovation is within each business business unit. So what we are trying with these investments is to connect our business units with the startups, and to make somehow a change of culture and connect the people. So from the company, from the corporates with the startups. So let's say it's somehow an innovation culture that we're trying to achieve here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Kathleen, you talked before about you are trying to connect from technology with the APIs with the startups. I think that's quite interesting, because you are an amazing technological company for the travel sector. And how are you trying to approach to the startups? How's the way you connect with them, or do you usually go to find out who are the coolest one right now, or you try to talk with VCs or with other partners to find out who is the best one to match with your technology?
Yeah. So from an API perspective, because it's really a self-service model, the great thing is you don't necessarily need to pick a winner. I mean, and you can collaborate with many, many more actors than probably what you can then manage through a venture fund or a partnership program. And I think Amadeus sits in a very unique position that because we are specialized in travel, that really helps narrow down our niche. So many of the startups can know where to come, or we also know where to go because we're in a very niche section of the travel market. But beyond that, I think it's important that we have a kind of a membership community and that we interact with a lot of accelerators, a lot of VCs, to make sure that we're positioning our programs and our solution and our API program in this case very early on to be able to work with these startups. So I think the strategy around the API is really kind of the masses and being able to serve as many as possible. And then also it's with the approach of the program. It's very much self-service, and that the developers can understand our APIs, they can understand documentation, they can interact with us in an agile way if they do have questions, but that you design the scalability already into your program, especially when you're talking about APIs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Fernando, Sofia, and Jordi, I just realized that you share something right now, is that you have physical space to connect with people. Fernando is now launching the Innovation Hub. Sofia, of course, have campus, and Jordi have this Correos Lab space. So I think it connects with what Jordi talked about before, right? It's about people, and we are all talking about technology, where the truth is that we need to connect physically with people. So can you share why it's so important that, and Fernando, you are just starting up that hub, right?
This network of innovation hubs that we are setting up was born a year and a half ago in Tel Aviv. It was our first innovation hub. It was the group had a clear idea that the startup world, startup nation, as they call themselves in Israel, was a place to be, to look for innovation for the group. And well, since there was no group handle office, it was necessary to have somebody there and a place to be there. And it was great because it was a way to connect with the ecosystem. We took the decision to have the person within one of the players of the startup ecosystem in Israel, and it was a great idea to have the possibility to develop the ecosystem that it was new for us. Then came San Francisco, same case, no office there. And since it's been successful, the idea to have the innovation hubs, we have decided to take out of the companies, each company, the startup initiatives we had, in Santiago we had, in Rio de Janeiro we had, in Moscow we had, all in those places we had initiatives with the startups, but within the companies, and setting them up in innovation hubs. So we are getting closer to the ecosystem. We are now not telling the entrepreneur to come to our offices to look for us. We are going to where the entrepreneur is, and that's the purpose. That is kind of our intention right now, to be there ready to be connected in an easier way.
Okay, thank you very much. Jordi, well, Sofia, you were talking with Mariano, that's why. I go often to World Campus, and I really can tell, I am a Microsoft guy, right? But I can tell that it is absolutely an open space and a place where everyone is, of course, welcome. And you have been working with amazing people from startups, even from the startup ecosystem to the corporate world. So what is your experience about that?
I think it's, again, what Jordi was saying, one of the most important things to actually make things go forward is connections. It's just bringing people together, like brilliant people together, and just make those collisions that you were saying happen. And physical spaces have that power. And if you manage to bring the right ingredients, to bring the content, to bring some ambassadors that will attract the right people to the space, something amazing can happen. Like opportunities of having bring corporates and like accelerate the access to the startups to those, have startups sharing the space, one fails, and the team joins the other, and suddenly together they're doing, I mean, we've had some stories like that, have successful entrepreneurs coming and help others, like the guys from Carto helping graphics. These things only happen when you bring people together. We also do a lot of stuff about these people. You need to find the right person, and you need to build a relationship of trust. Sometimes the word networking is cold, and it seems like it's just a very professional interaction. It's about people meeting people with the good, the bad day, a wrong day, and building real relationships and establishing a culture. I mean, it's very itchy, what Silicon Valley has. I mean, it's not a place, it's a mindset, and it's also a culture. And it's a culture of giving back, of being open to give back, to help, to give the access, to share a connection, and we're trying actually to do that at campus by creating founder to founder. Our main programs are focused on startups that are launched, have some traction, and we want to help them grow, but we ask them to help the startups that are starting in the cafe. Every week they have to go, give a talk about how they started, how they created the MVP, how they attracted the first 5,000 users. They are the ones that have to listen to the pitches of those that are starting. Hey, I have an idea. Go and talk to one of the residents. And it's just like by giving this founder to founder is how we've called it, a culture of give back. At the beginning you have to force it a little, but then everyone's really happy to have, I've actually been able to help that guy. And I expect someone will also help me. And this is very important. And only physical spaces allow you to do that.
Okay, thank you. So Jordi, what is happening in Correos Labs? Is 6 months old, more or less?
Yeah, more or less. Well, actually, I mean, we opened in February this year. We communicate about the space last South Summit. There was nothing in
I'm sorry.
in Correos.
There's a lot of improvising
Yes.
in this panel.
That's
So
amazing.
in the same way that in maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when Google just communicate that they want to open Google Campus, and then all the ecosystem changed in 1 year later. So we are very new in the name, in the ecosystem. So we have the space. We are connecting this space with some other spaces, and the more important thing, we are connecting the people that is in the space with our corporation. I mean, our president, the Presidente de Correos, wants to go once a month to talk to the entrepreneurs. I mean, next Wednesday we have this meeting. We have this meeting once every month. So we are creating these connections, and also is permitting to introduce a cultural change in big corporations. I mean, because we have the space. Well, sincerely, 2 years ago, I believe that there was full of spaces in Madrid, and we didn't need that. But we had this opportunity, and I'm really a believer in the spaces because are generating this interchange of people, and also what we have to reach now, the ones that we are here. I mean, we have our own spaces, but now we have to connect all the spaces. We have to copy the mindset of Google. These spaces has to be open. We have to share. I mean, and I think this is the same way of thinking that we have all the DINN, the network that we have created. I mean, this space, for example, this year, I mean, because we have this network, I think the connection between corporates, entrepreneurs, it's been really different compared with the last year. I mean, and this is because we have this space, and when we have the people, and we do the same that we are doing in all the spaces, putting contact entrepreneurs with corporate.
Okay, thank you. Fernando?
Why don't you tell us your experience in Microsoft, being an entrepreneur before and now being in a corporate?
Okay, I'm being hunted right now. That's great. I am only 1 year old corporate guy, and that's amazing because you're always learning a lot. You know, I've been for many years on the entrepreneurial side, and I learned amazing stuff. And now I'm trying to even understand the corporate world because I've never been there before. And what I found out is that you have so many things that they look like the same, but at the same time, you have absolutely the opposites. So you have to challenge yourself to understand how to connect with everything, because what you feel when you are an entrepreneur or you have been in this ecosystem for your whole career, you always are trying to achieve goals quick, right? You're trying to be agile, you're trying to get things done, and of course in a corporate it's quite complicated to do that because of the structure of the company. But I think there's always a way to find out how to do it, and it's the same answer we've been talking about. It's about people. It's about finding the right people to develop the right things. So at Microsoft, what we do with startups right now is to try to connect them with their clients thanks to technology. Of course, we are a technological company, and we have our cloud computing system is called Azure. So we think we can help them to achieve their goals thanks to technology. We are working with them with business intelligence, artificial intelligence, or big data, and we try to understand their needs to help them to create some amazing stuff. But we also understand that a very complicated thing for an entrepreneur is to sell their products, because they can even have an amazing product or an amazing talent and people, but they need to find where is their client, right? So we try to connect them also with their clients, because at Microsoft what we have is a great partners. Almost every corporate around the world is a client for Microsoft, right? So we can find the perfect match for our startups. So I can tell that it's quite amazing to be able to live the two worlds, and I think everyone should do that. It usually happens the other way around. It mostly happens that a guy coming from the corporate goes to build something, but why cannot do it the other way around? And I think it's a thing that is going to happen much more, and it should happen more. So thank you for your question. I think we have time for a question from the audience. Is there anyone who wants to ask for anything to one of our colleagues here? I cannot see you, but I don't see hands up. Not yet? Well, we can just have another last question. And what do you expect from here to next year? Let's think about next summit. What would you like that's going to happen? You know, what can happen here?
Well, first of all, I will begin with the topic we were discussing before, is that we are talking about corporates and startups collaborating, but we are also collaborating among sectors. So we are creating each time more opportunities to work together, like, for example, travel and payments, or mixed solutions. So we are looking how to enrich also the solutions at the end, looking for the customer to get the best thing. And the rhythm of acceleration, at least in BBVA, of this coalition making and making things happen and being true would be much more amazing. And so this is by the acceleration of the ecosystem, the connection with partners, and of course with making things come true.
Okay. Well, I think we are running out of time, so I would like to thank you all for everything you've done this year to get to this point, and of course for being here this morning. I will thank you all. So let's keep going in the morning, and thank you very much for everything. A pleasure.